Yes, good morning. Thanks for the interview. I'm Yann de Vries. I'm a co-founder of Redpoint e.ventures in Brazil. We are a new venture fund started last year in Brazil to focus on the Brazilian internet startups. We've been backed by Redpoint and e.ventures. Together, they are our sponsors for the fund. We raised $130 million last year, and we will be investing in early stage consumer internet, B2B, mobile, e-commerce, media, and SaaS companies. Our sweet spot is to focus on 3 to 5 million Series A investments, but because we're a bit of a larger fund, we also have a seed program to invest in very early stage companies, and we can also follow on into Series B, Series C rounds for more mature companies. Yes, I'm French. I moved to Brazil 2.5 years ago. I used to work with Cisco in corporate development, and I was traveling a lot to Latin America and saw an amazing opportunity in Brazil. It's a huge market. There's roughly 100 million internet users over there. It's the very beginning, and it's a very exciting place to be an investor right now. There's everything to be built, from very basic internet companies, but also to leapfrog into really new exciting areas. And that's why I decided to move there, especially with the backing of Redpoint and e.ventures. We had a very interesting value proposition locally with a global platform, and that's why I decided to move there to Brazil. Good question. So we're focused really on identifying the best local entrepreneurs in Brazil. But because we have this global platform with Redpoint and e.ventures, with offices in the Silicon Valley, in Europe, in China, Japan, Russia, and now Brazil, we have a global insight into all the different business models, the technologies that are very, very quickly moving around the world. And so we take advantage of those insights to also identify local gaps in the Brazilian market, and in some cases, back new teams that want to come to Brazil, do partnerships with, for example, Asian companies that want to enter Brazil, with local teams in Brazil. So we have a dual approach where we can be very focused on the Brazilian market, but also take ideas from abroad that would be very powerful in Brazil, and also back some teams to do that. So from the very basic e-commerce companies that 10, 15 years ago were already started in the US, that still needs to be done in Brazil. And there's also a lot of leapfrogging opportunities where all the incumbents are not very established. There's not much competition, and there's an opportunity for new players to come in with new mobile plays, internet SaaS plays, to really disrupt existing industries which are very inefficient. You look at financial services, you look at education, you look at healthcare. There are big segments where the internet has yet to play a big role in providing new services, new pricing, much more productivity to the companies, or very innovative services to the consumers. And that's why Brazil is such an interesting place to invest, from very basic internet services, but also to much more mature, directly imported new ideas from the Western or Eastern world into Brazil. So a lot of the segments that we talked about, we are really trying to look at areas where the existing industries are very inefficient, either because they're very fragmented or there's very little competition, and where the internet with new business models, with very highly scalable models, will be very efficient. Education, healthcare, financial services, local internet plays, mobile is going to play a big difference in Brazil. For example, there is 260 million mobile users in Brazil. Still, a lot of them are feature phones, prepaid, but the smartphone penetration is increasing very rapidly. There's maybe 40 to 50 million smartphones today, which will double in the next 2 to 3 years. So you start to have really critical mass of mobile services. People will experience the internet for the first time on their mobile, and that creates really big opportunity. It's a very young population in Brazil. They're early adopters of technology. They're incredibly social on the internet. Facebook is the second largest country is Brazil. Twitter, their second largest country is Brazil. So it's an environment where people share a lot of information, are very active on the social network. And this is a very fertile ground to launch new services, because you have a very good platform to very quickly scale if you have the right product, and with entering new segments at a very low cost. It's very different. Brazil is really starting. It's a very nascent ecosystem, so you're only talking about hundreds of companies that are venture-backed today compared to the thousands in the US. The total venture capital money in Brazil is maybe between 400 to 500 million today, compared to the billions in the US. So you don't have all the history of venture capital, all the serial entrepreneurs that you have in the Valley, the whole ecosystem between the universities, the incubators. That is still very, very nascent. But because of the large market, the people that are starting today are very well positioned to create big companies. That's why you see a lot more foreigners coming to Brazil, like myself, Europeans, Americans, Asians that are coming to Brazil to take advantage of this market. And we're all working together in a very collaborative way, because we all know that we need each other to make it succeed and make it grow. And that's why it's a very collaborative working environment. I think much less competitive that you would see in the US. Both the entrepreneurs have less competition, and also the investors have much less competition. As funds, there is a handful of funds today in Brazil, and so it's the valuations are much more reasonable, and you can be much more selective with the investments that you make. That's a good question. I think the Brazilians are very open as a culture. They're very social. They embrace all kinds of ethnicities, and they also see that they have a lot to learn from other business people that are coming to the country, right? They realize that if they do it on their own in a closed environment, especially in the internet and technology space, it will be very difficult and very slow for them to progress. And that's why they're embracing change, they're embracing the Silicon Valley. They've been very receptive to new funds, new executives coming in. I think as the market matures, naturally they will become more closed. The Brazilian economy per se is actually a very closed economy. There's huge import barriers and taxes. The government is trying to protect their own industries. But on the internet side, where technology is obviously playing in a very different paradigm, I think the locals really embrace that change from abroad. Yes, delighted to be here. I always wanted to come. I used to live in Hong Kong for 3 years. I never had a chance to come to Japan. So Akio and I work very closely. We have this global platform. We meet every quarter in a different region. Akio had been to Brazil already twice. And we try to foster this exchange of ideas between the different regions. And it's very enriching for the partnership. And it was my opportunity here to come to Japan to learn a lot about the Asian ecosystem, especially in Japan. There's a lot of innovation happening that I think will be very beneficial for us to see what Japan, what China is doing ahead of Brazil. And we're already starting to see a lot of exchange between Asian companies and Brazilian companies. A lot of Asian companies are seeing Brazil as a very strategic market for them. And so we're seeing a lot of investments from companies like Baidu, Rakuten, and others that are entering Brazil. And I wouldn't be surprised that in the next 5 to 10 years there'll be a lot of M&A activity coming between Asian and Brazilian companies in the future. Look, I've been charmed by the city, the heritage, and also the people. They've been very friendly. I had a wonderful experience the other day when I sat at a restaurant and at the bar, and then a couple started to exchange, invite me for sake. You know, the people have been incredibly welcoming, and I've been stunned by the beauty of the city. I did. Very interesting. I also got aligned by the monk with the stick. It's a very inspiring place, and I think it was very interesting for I think all of us to be able to reflect a little bit. I would highly encourage them to come. I think it's a very informal atmosphere which yields to building great relationships. I think there's some of the best and brightest people in the internet space that are attending this event. So it's a wonderful opportunity to connect with them and also to learn about other spaces, other geographies, and it's, I think from the few days I've spent here already, I've made some invaluable contacts and I've really opened my horizons a lot. For sure, as I was saying, I think there's some of the brightest people in the internet space here. All of them are in the leading edge, exploring new ideas, and so this will be very helpful for me as I go back to Brazil. So the event hasn't started, but just from seeing how Akio operates, and what I love with him, and I think the style of the fund, is they are really always looking for the next and brightest ideas. They're really on the leading edge of things. They have very deep contacts with very influential people, both in Japan and China, and they're very close to the entrepreneurs, right? So I think that makes it a very powerful combination, and Akio has made some great investments as a result, I think, and it's inspiring for us to see how he does that with his team in Japan and China, and we definitely would like to replicate his success over there if we can. I would like to extend my thanks to them for inviting me here, and it's been a wonderful experience so far, and definitely want to come back. Thank you very much.